Right now on the National Weather Desk, severe weather from coast to coast.
We didn't have time to react. It just happened so fast.
We're expecting these treacherous conditions to continue throughout the day and into tomorrow.
More than a year after Tropical Storm Fred, many are frustrated by the slow pace of cleanup,
leaving them wondering if and when the rural county will look like it once did.
Did you know? You can smell changes in the weather.
But I've heard people say that snow has a smell as well. Do you have any knowledge on that?
How soon before volcanoes in Northern California erupt again?
Both Lassen and Mount Shasta are classified as very high threats by the U.S. Geological Survey's rankings.
And our Friday football forecast looks at the role weather could play in this weekend's conference championships.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Veronica Johnson. Folks in the South are still picking up the pieces this morning following Wednesday's tornadoes. There was devastation of an apartment building in Utah, Alabama, which suffered that's just one example of some of the power that the twisters brought to the region. We have two reports this morning, beginning now with Karis Harmon in Tybee.
We didn't have time to react. It just happened so fast.
A scary experience for people that were caught in the crosswinds of an EF3 tornado in Tybee on Tuesday. The damage in the area is extensive, tearing the roof off of houses, trees down, and homes destroyed.
It was very scary.
After Rose Parnell got the tornado alert on her phone, she got her dog and headed to the bathroom, hunkering down and praying for the best.
Right when we sat down and got ready, the wind started howling.
When the tornado passed by Andy Timothy's house, he says he could feel the floor beneath him shaking with the wind.
When the house started moving, I just, what's that, oh Lord?
Carmen Walker lives in Building 2 at the Sagewood Apartments. Wednesday morning, she saw the damage at Building 3 just yards away.
I was horrified, honestly. I couldn't believe that, that really happened, and we were so close to it, and I just really felt bad for the ones who live there because, I know it would have been close to the holidays. That had to been very hard for them, too.
16 units damaged, 19 people displaced. Damage wasn't just contained to the Sagewood Apartments. On Colonial Drive, this home was crushed under a large pine tree. People were inside on the second floor when it came down. Several homes in the area were damaged. However, no injuries were reported anywhere in Utah.
From tornadoes, we turn to winter weather. It's been a snowy start to the season in the Pacific Northwest. All of that snow and ice is causing power problems, especially in the mountains east of Seattle. Reporter Karina Vargas is in Snohomish with more.
Roy Tucker lives in Edmonds, an area that was greatly impacted by power outages. He says he was without power for almost 2 days, struggling with the cold weather.
Power went out, and then all of a sudden we decided, geez, how do you cook? How do you do anything in here?
Tucker says he had to cover himself in clothes and blankets just to stay warm. Tucker says he was relieved that his power came back early Thursday morning.
From Washington State, let's move now to Montana, where the story has been more snow. Even in a state that is accustomed to winter weather, the snow is causing some serious problems on the road. For a look at the conditions, we'll go now to Butte. Reporter Josh Margolis.
The snow started falling here around 2:30 p.m. in Butte, and it's been coming down steadily ever since. Particularly troublesome spots, as always, will be the mountain passes. Be extra careful out there. We're expecting these treacherous conditions to continue throughout the day and into tomorrow.
We checked this morning, and the Montana Department of Transportation is reporting numerous accidents on I-90 due to snow and ice. We want to give you a driver's eye view of the road conditions. This isn't the highway through the mountains, but as you can see, the roads are snow covered and they're awfully dangerous. All right, skiers love that early season snowfall, but one resort in Montana is saying, please wait. Bridger Bowl in Bozeman opens next Friday, and as they get ready, the skiers aren't allowed to hike up on their own. Have patience, they say. It should be a great season to come. Well, if you visited Washington, D.C., there is a good bet that you crossed the Potomac and maybe you spent some time in Old Town Alexandria. The low-lying city is prone to flooding, a problem exacerbated by centuries-old pipes, but a fix is in the works. We go now to Joy Wang in Washington, D.C. to explain.
You're looking at the Alex Renew wastewater treatment plant, where every year the facility purifies 13 billion gallons of wastewater.
These treatment processes are essential for removing harmful bacteria, everything that would cause any issues to the environment.
But when heavy rain falls in Alexandria, the old pipes can't handle all that overflow, which means untreated wastewater ends up in the Potomac River.
This is dating back to the 1800s. It's the original sewer system, and it has one pipe in the ground that collects both rainwater and sewage.
The solution? A tunnel that would divert those overflows back here to be treated. Hazel, a custom-made tunnel boring machine, is the star of the show.
It's essentially a giant drill.
We crawled through a small space to get to the front, where Hazel will dig through 2 miles of dirt, rocks, and other materials.
That process will take about 14 months to tunnel, and then we'll have to come back in behind it and build the permanent structures.
Elevators, stairs, equipment, any infrastructure necessary for crews to pump all the water traveling through this tunnel up to treatment. In total, $615 million to make it all happen.
At the heart of it is a water quality project.
For more than a year, debris from the remnants of Tropical Storm Fred have remained in parts of North Carolina. The problem comes down to money. For more, we head to Samir Nefsi in Asheville, North Carolina.
August 17th, a date that's still fresh in the minds of many residents.
I watched the small trees about this big around. They were standing up like this, and they started leaning like this when the water started coming down. And another 5 to 7 or 8 minutes, they disappeared underwater.
More than a year later, and this is just one problem residents like Bob Kears face.
These are trees and stuff that were left over here. That's still here.
I'm really amazed at the damage. Buildings and bridges that have been here for a decade and much longer are just gone.
The waterways not much better.
Huge amount of debris, a lot of wood, a lot of trees down. It's all along the sides. There's a huge amount. There's so much more, and every single rapid has been changed.
So we're exercising all powers that we have to try to capture all funds we can from a multitude of opportunities.
Assistant County Manager Chris Boyd says there's 57 focus areas that received extensive damages post Tropical Storm Fred.
It's going to be a little tough, and there's always a concern that there's not enough funding.
Boyd says his team is now looking for contractors to bid on the project.
Time now for a fun segment that we call Social Meteorology. This is where we turn to our team of 200 meteorologists across the country, and we ask for their help to help you better understand weather and weather phenomena. You can find each and every one of those mini lessons on their social media platforms. We start now in Eugene, Oregon, where Josh Cosart, he's talking about clouds.
A banner cloud. It forms because of available moisture and the wind direction and temperature. We get colder westerly winds coming in from the Pacific Ocean. As it moves over the peak, it's able to draw warm, moist air up from downtown Eugene, and that warm, moist air cools, condenses, and creates the cloud sitting atop Spencer Butte.
What makes a snowstorm a blizzard? There are 3 things a blizzard must have. The first one is sustained winds or frequent wind gusts of 35 miles per hour or greater. The next one is snowfall or blowing snow that reduces visibility to less than 1/4 of a mile. And finally, these conditions must persist for 3 or more hours.
If you've ever looked up at the sky and noticed that it looks like the clouds are moving in different directions, that's because of something called directional shear. If you take a look at this time lapse I captured, you can see that if you think of the clouds like layers of a cake, we've got lower level clouds here moving from north to south and upper level clouds moving from west to east. Now all these cloud movements are powered by the wind. So at this lower level, we've got winds moving one way, and at the upper level, winds moving a different way. You can also have clouds at different levels going the same direction, but at different speeds, and that's going to be called speed shear.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, have you ever felt like you can smell rain? You can, and we'll show you why.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Skies go partly sunny today. We have lighter winds than yesterday. That's the key to today's forecast. After starting in the low 30s, afternoon highs should top out in the low 40s for most towns. I think a nice looking Friday out there. And as we go into Saturday, our next weather maker moves in. Look for periods of rain and some heavy rainfall moves in during the afternoon. Check out these temperatures. They're warming into the 50s, and the wind will gust at times 30 to 40 miles per hour.
I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Friday morning starts off chilly, but we are looking at a bit of a more comfortable day. Temperatures will warm back into the more seasonable upper 40s and low 50s during the afternoon. And this is all before our next weather maker gets here. Friday starts off dry, actually stays bright and sunny. We start to see some clouds roll in Friday night in advance of that next system, and then here comes the rain. That's going to return on Saturday. And that's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. It's going to be a cool one up in Raleigh, 58 degrees, 57 in Nashville, 57 in Atlanta. This is where you'll probably definitely need jackets. Looking at temperatures in the 70s towards Mobile and Jacksonville. You get those warm temperatures in the 80s down in Florida. May leave some sunshine to start the day off. Looking at a little bit of cloud structure building in out of Texas. A few spotty showers in Tennessee, but it looks like for the most part nice and dry heading into the weekend for parts of the southeast and especially down in Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
As snow blankets parts of the Pacific Northwest with more expected, folks are dealing with wintry commutes. Roads through Maple Valley, Washington were clear, but icy and slick. Now to this fantastic sight, a lenticular cloud cloak over Mount Shasta, an awesome view over what meteorologist Holden LaCroix calls one of the prettiest volcanoes in the West.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Twitter.
Okay, follow me here. I want you to close your eyes. Listen to that sound. It's the rain. You can almost smell it, though, right? But what is that smell when it comes to the weather, and how do other types of weather have a smell? Emily Gracie spoke with an expert on the topic.
The word for that smell is petrichor, which means rock plus the blood of the gods. So it's this fantastic word that's like super hardcore because it's a smell that evolutionarily we're really attuned to. There are a few different things that contribute to that smell. One is lightning turns different molecules in the air into ozone, which has a distinctive smell. Another factor is that plants have little hairs that contain oils that have specific smells. But the one that I know the most about is a compound called geosmin, created by a type of soil-dwelling bacteria called Actinomycetes. And they make it to attract an invertebrate called a springtail.
So rain itself does not smell. It's what's in the ground that rain is landing on that smells?
When it rains, two things are happening. One is the moisture, the humidity in the air starts to enter into those little air cavities and pockets, and that forces the geosmin out into the atmosphere where it can travel by wind, and that's how it gets to our noses. The other thing is the raindrops are, and sending little soil molecules up into the air, disrupting the structure. And so the geosmin that is living in the tiny, teeny little air pockets underneath the surface of the soil are then introduced to the air where we smell them in the wind.
I haven't experienced this, but I've heard people say that snow has a smell as well. Do you have any knowledge on that?
I wonder if part of what people are noticing is the lack of pollution in the air. So snow falls through the air sort of like little scrub brushes. and it's knocking out a lot of the pollutants. Rain does this as well, but snow just has a lot more surface area. And so after a rain or a snowfall, another thing that people associate with more the after effects of rain is that the air smells really good because there's less pollution in it.
Emily goes into a much deeper dive about geosmin. If you want to learn more about the smell of weather, you can check out the full version of this interview on our YouTube channel. Just search the National Weather Desk and click on our Interviews tab. Well, you are probably familiar with the term precipitation, and now we know that you can probably smell it too, but do you know what mixed precipitation is? And did you know that precipitation can pose a real threat on those roads during the winter? Let's head now to Syracuse, New York, where meteorologist Violet Skyber breaks it all down.
Let's explain the different types of precipitation, how they form, and also how they can be hazardous when you're driving through them. So starting with a warm front, that's usually where we see mixed precipitation, such as freezing rain, sleet, plain rain, and plain snow. So as this warm front advances, it has warmer air on one side of it and colder air on the other. And as this warmer air is advancing along this warm front, it gets shoved above some colder air because warm air is less dense and wants to rise, and cold air that's more dense wants to sink. So with this warmer air aloft, that's where we see rain. First, starting on the other side of the warm front, where we're seeing completely warm air, this falls as plain rain. Now, as we get closer to the edge of that warm front, it's still falling as rain, but we get a little sliver of some much colder air at the surface. So that rain will transfer to freezing rain on any cold surfaces at the ground, including roads. Now, as we go further towards the colder air mass on the other side of that warm front, that's when we start to see sleet. It's falling as rain, but then freezing into ice crystals before it reaches the ground. And that's when we see those little sleet pellets, but they don't accumulate on any surfaces, making them icy. As we continue going further away from that warm front, it's completely cold air and all plain snowfall. Now, as we look ahead to driving conditions, why this is so important for traveling. When you're driving across a bridge, it usually tends to freeze over with freezing rain and not sleet. That's because sleet falls as ice pellets, not really making the road that icy. But freezing rain, with that colder air at the surface, that freezing rain starts to make roads pretty slick. So here's some tips for driving. Keep the steering wheel straight, do not brake, and take your foot off the accelerator to slow down. Hopefully you guys stay safe driving this winter.
Hawaii has been making headlines, but it's not the only place in the U.S. with volcanoes. Both Lassen and Mount Shasta in Northern California are classified as active volcanoes. But what exactly does that mean? To find out, we head to Preston Dunyan in Redding, California.
It has been just over 100 years since Lassen Peak's last eruption ended, and roughly 3,000 years since the last well-documented eruption of Mount Shasta. Despite this, both Lassen and Mount Shasta are classified as very high threats by the U.S. Geological Survey's rankings. I spoke with USGS to learn more about what that classification means and what goes into tracking volcanic threats.
So we look for earthquakes. Our deformation instruments like GPS or tilt meters, which tell us about the shape of the volcano and whether it's changing because something is moving within it, like magma or fluids. And we also monitor gases at volcanoes. So what gases are coming out and in what proportions. And the changes in those will tell us about whether there's magma moving into the system or moving up through the plumbing system of the volcano. Threat is not just how soon a volcano is going to erupt or necessarily the style of eruption, but it also incorporates how much we know about it, how well monitored it is, and how many people and how much infrastructure and resources are around the volcano.
Dr. Ball said that probabilities are fluid and change with better knowledge of both history and current conditions. But a 2018 report from USGS gave Lassen a 0.5% chance of erupting in the next 30 years and Mount Shasta a 3.5% chance.
To see, but some not so great news. According to the UNESCO report that's backed by the United Nations, the Great Barrier Reef is in real trouble. The report concluded that climate change has majorly impacted the reef's ecosystem. Scientists recommend placing the Great Barrier Reef, one of the world's 7 natural wonders, on the endangered list of World Heritage Sites. Another meeting on that issue is set for the first half of 2023. And we've shown you lots of great weather throughout the country this week. As we head to break, let's take a look now at that same weather, some of the photos that have come into our Chime In platform.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. We got a little bit of snow coming in across the northern plains today, a little rain moving up from the south into the Ohio Valley. Those two will kind of collide over the Ohio Valley tomorrow, while the plains will be dealing with some sunshine and chilly temperatures. By the time we get to your Sunday, a lot drier for all of us outside, and temperatures still staying pretty chilly for Sunday. However, sunshine across a lot of the Midwest to end the weekend.
Well, hi there and happy Friday morning. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. We're talking about a cold start to meteorological winter the last couple of days around the Pacific Northwest. Another round of lowland snow eventually showing up in Seattle and Puget Sound by later tonight. Meanwhile, just 19 for a high with gusty winds out of Jackson Hole. 70 sounds nice out of Phoenix. Look at this round of snow diving into the Rockies for a nice coating near the Wasatch as we head into the weekend. And that's the scene from here.
It's Friday, time for a peek at how the weather will impact some of the weekend's college and pro football games.
We've got some big matchups this weekend, starting with a few championship matchups in college. Let's take a look. One of those tonight, in fact, that'll be the Pac-12. Utah versus USC in Las Vegas. Temperatures will be around 60 or so at kickoff with a mix of sun and clouds. The AAC matchup, we've got UCF taking on Tulane in New Orleans. Partly cloudy, always looking good in Louisiana with 73. And a night game on tap in Charlotte. That'll be the ACC matchup, Clemson versus UNC. With temperatures hovering in the 50s. Not looking too bad for NFL Sunday as well. We've got Green Bay in Chicago, a little on the chilly side at kickoff with a couple clouds around, temperatures in the upper 30s. Big matchup in Cincinnati. Mahomes comes to town versus Joe Burrow, and looking at temperatures in the 40s there with plenty of sunshine. And then we've got Washington versus the Giants. Temperatures looking good here too. Bit on the cool side, mid-40s. With sunshine. Hope you have a great weekend. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
Thanks for spending part of your morning with the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Veronica Johnson. Make it a great Friday and have a wonderful weekend. And as always, keep an eye on the sky.